Oh, could we get, yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay. I know it's got Dr. Moganaki's picture there because I couldn't be doing this without him. But I think I would like to make the argument that while some of you may feel that with immunotherapy, tyrosine kinase inhibitors, novel drugs, that individuals like Dr. Moganaki and myself, that we may be out of work soon, and I think we are ready to prove to you that we are not ready to be obsolete. We're going to talk to you about how the fact that pathologic endpoints are extremely valuable, and without surgery we wouldn't have them. Systemic therapy is poison, and Dr. Moganaki is going to explain to you that uncontrolled disease causes bad local problems, that local therapy provides cure, and that's when we're going to win, by basically showing you all that local therapy is incredibly crucial. So some definitions, we've been talking about this all day: pathologic complete response, major pathologic response. We know what these are. We recognize that we can have some objective radiographic responses, either complete or partial response, and some methodologies for doing this. But pathologic findings are incredibly important. We've been hearing all about this, and so I thank our pathologists for speaking right before us to help bring our point home so that we can win this debate. And so when we think again about pathologic endpoints, we've actually just heard a great history of where this all came about, so I won't overemphasize it, but we understand the importance of these pathologic endpoints. But we have to talk about why these pathologic endpoints are incredibly important to our patients and why we need to have surgical specimens so that we can receive these pathologic endpoints. So when we think about pathologic endpoints, there's a lot of benefits. And we don't, again, get these pathologic endpoints without surgical resection. They allow us to understand patients' likelihood of responding to these treatments in the future. If we only give them systemic therapy and we never take any tumor out, we won't know how well they've been responding or how well they will respond in the future. They also provide evidence to clarify the mechanism of response so that we can better understand the drugs that we're giving to our patients. They provide data on the need for radiation to additional fields. You can see that we do all collaborate, and so I would not argue that surgery is the only thing, but we need to know when our radiation oncologists need to help us surgeons. In addition, trials of systemic therapy alone require enormous groups of patients with lengthy follow-up to establish any kind of survival benefit. When we give drugs and then operate, we can get answers much more quickly. Pathologic endpoints allow us to evaluate the efficacy of these neoadjuvant treatments early in the disease trajectory before recurrence, which matters to the patients. Detecting pathologic response changes lives for patients. That's what we care about at the end of the day, right? Pathologic response creates an opportunity to withhold further systemic treatment and potential freedom for systemic therapy. This is important to patients. We know that there's an impact on quality of life. You can see here that patients receiving systemic therapy have negative impact on quality of life with every single cycle, with cumulative exhaustion physically and emotionally. So if we don't provide local therapy and we just provide systemic therapy forever, the patients are going to have worsening and worsening quality of life. We know that patients receiving systemic therapy have toxicity-dependent reduction in quality of life with worsened fatigue, GI symptoms, and shortness of breath. In addition, we know that more systemic therapy causes worse impact on quality of life. Again, with every additional cycle, every additional round of treatment, patients are having worsening quality of life, and it's the patient's outcomes and how they're experiencing their disease that matters the most, is it not? Even among surgical patients, those who receive adjuvant systemic therapy show increased risk for worse quality of life. Physical functioning, physical role, vitality, social functioning, all of these things compared to no systemic therapy are much worse. And randomized controlled trials of adjuvant compared to no adjuvant therapy in surgical patients show that at 3 months, observed patients improved by 12 points, and those who received systemic therapy deteriorated. Again, the more systemic therapy we're giving patients, the worse impact on quality of life. So what about beyond quality of life? What about cost? I know you care about that here in Canada. Financial toxicity is common and it persists throughout treatment duration and beyond. So the longer we're treating patients, the more systemic therapy we're giving them, the more financial toxicity they're going to experience. Moreover, I know Dr. Ford didn't show up for this debate. I know he was a little worried about losing to us, but he was an author on this paper that showed that surgery was associated with lower financial toxicity than systemic therapy. We know that increased financial toxicity is correlated with decreased quality of life. Again, this is what matters to patients. This is what we should be thinking about. And then the social implications of prolonged systemic therapy instead of just taking care of it and providing a cure with local therapy. These social implications include time away from work, transportation needs, childcare, elder care, having to fight through traffic and find parking and missing out on all of these home responsibilities every single time they go to a treatment center to receive their systemic therapy instead of just getting their local therapy and being done with it. And then beyond these social implications, we know that surveillance imaging and MRD assays are unreliable in predicting pathologic response, and we do need local therapy to ensure it. I also want to talk to you about the fact that systemic therapy is poison. It's not tolerated by everyone. You can see there's lots of contraindications to chemotherapy, and even though we have novel drugs in this current era, there are also contraindications to immunotherapy. Not everyone can get it. Even for those people who can receive these drugs, the side effects are really horrendous when they add up. So these are the side effects we see for systemic therapy. They're common, they're severe, and they're prolonged. And you might be saying, well, these are the side effects for cytotoxic chemotherapy. The drugs we give now, they don't have all of these side effects. They're much better. Well, that may be the case, but we saw this slide yesterday in Dr. Pompili's talk. This applies to newer drug classes as well. Tyrosine kinase inhibitors are fabulous, but they do have side effects. We saw all of these side effects that were highlighted in this tweet from Jill Feldman, who also gave me permission to share this today. But also it applies to checkpoint inhibitors. They also have side effects. Toxicity is a top reason for checkpoint inhibitor discontinuation. So these newer drug classes also have side effects. Among 9,000 patients in 31 trials of immunotherapy, 97% experienced at least one adverse event, 6% died because of adverse events, and we know that more time on systemic treatment is more cumulative risk of adverse events. So what about when we think about radiation or surgery? Do 97% of patients who get radiation or surgery have an adverse event? Not so much. Does 6% die of an adverse event? We wouldn't be operating or providing radiation if 6% died after our intervention. And then we don't have this more cumulative risk because we have our risk in the moment, in the perioperative period, and the peri-radiation period, and then it's done, it's over with. We're not going to be giving them something continuously for a prolonged period of time with the cumulative risk of adverse events going forward. So you see these side effects of systemic therapy are common, they're severe, and they're prolonged. There are side effects of surgery. You see them here in blue, and there are side effects of radiation. You see them in green, but they are rare and they are temporary, which is substantially better than these prolonged side effects of systemic therapy that may be given without any end in sight if we don't include local therapy. I hope that I've shown to you several reasons why local therapy needs to be part of the treatment going forward in the future, and I'm counting on Dr. Moganaki to bring us home for the win after Dr. Juergens.
Wow. That was a really good talk.